Welcome back to the Real News Network and our series of interviews with Elaine Bernard. She heads the trade union program at Harvard. We're talking about unions, the economic crisis, and the United States. Thanks for joining us again, Elaine. So talk about the state of unionization in the United States. Give us a sense of the numbers.
Really, if you look since the end of World War II, and that's where we've got some good numbers for, continued to grow to about 1955, and then has been in decline really in density since 1955. What do we mean by density? We mean the proportion of the workforce that's in union versus the workforce as a whole. Today, there's 16 million union members out of a workforce of about 125, 130 million workers. It's not because people have decided to quit unions. There's been job loss where unions are, the decline in manufacturing where unions were strong, the deunionization in manufacturing, the tendency of unions not to be able to move into new areas. That is, the workforce has grown where unions aren't. In the service sector and where unions are, the workforce has been in decline. Also, we've seen a geographic story here, which is the strength of the labor movement has been in the manufacturing center of the country, Michigan, Illinois, the New England, the Northeast, and the West Coast. And in fact, we've seen a complete hollowing out of the labor movement in the South and the Midwest.
So, is it possible some of this is connected with this cleaning out of the more militant leadership in the unions and members, and you get kind of more unions, leaders, certainly not all, but more, who maybe say, listen, we have enough members for enough dues, we're doing okay, why bother with all these new immigrants anyway?
Oh, sure. Divisions in the labor movement, but remember, 55 is the year that the AFL and the CIO came together. Sometimes, quite frankly, a little competition can really help. The most densely organized sector is education. Guess what? We've had two unions in K-12 education for most of the 20th century, in fact, and yet that's the most densely organized sector.
And talk a bit about Taft-Hartley. What exactly was it, and what was the significance of it?
Taft-Hartley was a labor law reform that was brought in to weaken the labor movement. It was after World War II, after the death of President Roosevelt, and where there was a fear after the war that unions would be too powerful, and so it allowed states to pass legislation called Right to Work, which limited the right of unions to negotiate union security clauses, so that it became a law that basically said the union has to represent and speak for everyone in the workforce, but it can't ask those people, it can't force them to pay union dues. And it has to treat them similar to union members in almost all ways. So it really was a way of handicapping the unions.
And that legislation is still in effect.
Yes, that's still...
In fact, there's been a lot of critique of various periods in American history where the Democratic Party has controlled Congress, controlled the Senate, or had a Democratic president, and Taft-Hartley hasn't been repealed, and perhaps an issue even today.
Sure. I mean, there's 22 states where right-to-work laws are still on the books. And in fact, a number of other states who've looked at passing this legislation that really limits union rights. Taft-Hartley is one law. There's many laws where the Supreme Court has limited what would normally be considered labor rights. And that has created a situation where, organizing in the United States is very, very difficult. I think one of the reasons we do not have universal health care in this country is because we do not have a organized worker constituency for it the way we do in other countries. When you only have 7% of the healthcare workers organized, you've lost one of the most important, powerful voices for universal health care, as opposed to in elementary and secondary education where we're close to 50% organized. That's why we have a public education system, but we don't have universal public health care for all. The story is even a little more complicated. it's a story of sectors. What we saw is if somebody entered the labor movement in 1973, they'd walk, whether they were public or private sector, 1 in 4 workers in either sector would have been in a union. But that meant a labor movement of 15 million private sector union members and 3 million public sector union members. By the time we got to last year, the public sector, with very different labor laws, more than doubled, almost tripled in size, so that you now had just under 8 million public sector workers. Private sector halved, so we ended up with 8.2 million. So today, the labor movement, we look at those 16 million workers, almost half of them in organized labor are private sector workers, and the other half is public sector worker. But the difference is huge. In the case of the private sector today, it's 1 in 13 workers is a union member. In the public sector, it's 1 in 3. And certainly, in this instance, you can look, there's no clearer demonstration than something's wrong with the law in the private sector.
And it can't be explained, as some people do, that just that the private sector, the traditional sectors of the private sectors that tend to be more unionized, for example, manufacturing, it may have gone down, but as we've talked about before, it went from 20 million in '73 today to about 15 million workers. But 15 million workers is still a lot of workers, so you can't explain the lowering of unionization simply because of a smaller manufacturing sector.
It's got a lot to do with the laws, because if you said, well, what if the private sector had the sort of laws. Right now, for instance, before Congress, there's the Employee Free Choice Act.
Okay, let's talk about that in the next segment of our series of interviews. Let's talk about the Employee Free Choice Act. Please join us for the next segment of our interview with Elaine Bernard. There are times when reality just asserts itself. In spite of the haze created by television news and entertainment, sometimes crisis rips a tear in the fabric of myth and propaganda. Now a profound economic crisis has ripped asunder the American dream itself. Millions of people losing jobs and homes. They lack proper health care and any real sense of security. Since 2001, workers' wages have fallen or remained stagnant, even though worker productivity has risen almost 33%. By 2006, the top 1% of households were receiving 23% of all pre-tax income, more than double what it was in the 1970s. It's the greatest concentration of income since 1928. As unemployment rises, we need to know why this crisis is happening and what we can do to defend ourselves. Why are wages so low? Why is the society so laden with debt? Is it in ordinary Americans' interest to have $1 trillion military budget to project power across the globe? Corporate television news won't ask these questions, let alone try to find answers. Only a truly independent news network can tackle these questions with courage and with ordinary people's interests in mind. We need a news network that's independent of corporations, governments, and political parties. We need the real news. But there won't be a real news network unless we raise substantial funds right away. The current financial crisis has hit our funding hard. Together, we do have the power to turn it around. There are already hundreds of thousands of people watching the real news every month. If everyone pitches in, we can build an internet and cable television network that will change the face of media forever. You can organize house parties, talk to friends at school and at work, send email blasts and spread the word. Distribute this video to everyone you know. Pick up the phone and call a few friends and suggest they visit therealnews.com. Invest just 10 minutes a day to ask friends and colleagues to join the campaign to create a truly independent source of internet and television news. Together, we can build this network. Just 50,000 people at $10 a month gets us to our first level of sustainability. You can help us reach this goal, and when we do, we'll move to television in millions of homes across North America. Help us reach an audience in the millions. Please contribute generously. Spread the word. Let's make the Real News television network a reality.
Your tax-deductible donation makes it possible. Please contribute at therealnews.com.